So hello and welcome to a new episode of Stephen Four Wheels. As you can see, we're out and about today, and if you watched my last video, my Q&A session, you'll have known that I have bought a new car. And today I'm going to give you a tour of this new car. It is a Mercedes-Benz B Class. Okay, so here is the B Class that I bought. It is a B180 CDI Sport. It comes with things like full leather, very nice xenon headlights that you see there, and it also has these upgraded alloy wheels. Now, the main reason that I bought this car was obviously because of these two mainly. I did need a bigger car. The SLK, as I've mentioned before, I still love. I absolutely love it, but it isn't the most practical car in the world. However, I knew this when I bought it 3.5 years ago, but obviously life goes on, things change and things happen, so I needed a big car. So hence why now I've ended up with a B Class as well. So I'm going to quick little walk around with the new B Class, show you around some of the features of it, just so you guys know exactly what I bought really. Now this is a daily driver, it's not going to be a show car as such. The SLK takes that crown, unfortunately. I can't have two show cars. So as you can see, it's finished in this lovely white colour. It wasn't really my first choice, but the main reason I bought this car was because of the condition and also the mileage. Now this is a 2012 car, and if I just show you actually the mileage, now bearing in mind I've done quite a bit of mileage. I've done about 700 miles in this car. I think it's going to come up now. I have to put the ignition on. I bought this car and it was with 14,800 miles on the clock. Now since I've bought it, I've done exactly 600 miles in it, so we can work that out, I think. So yeah, it would have come with about 14,800 miles on the clock if my calculations are correct. I'm sure someone will point me out if they're not, but that's why I bought this car. A 9-year-old car with just 14,800 miles on, and that's the main reason I bought this car. A lot of the other cars this age have actually maybe done 100,000 miles. So that is the reason why I bought the car. I couldn't resist that sort of mileage. Let's have a little walk around the car and I'll point out a few things to you. So this particular one is the Sport model, as I've mentioned. So you get a slightly sportier body kit on there. You also get things like the twin exhaust down there, and even a little bit of a spoiler, which I didn't actually notice how sort of profound this spoiler was until actually I gave it a clean. And actually it is quite a sort of big spoiler for this type of car. I'm not sure whether it actually serves any sort of sportiness or any sort of purpose to it, but anyway, it is there, and it does look quite nice, to be fair. So coming around to say, we've got the optional extra wheels on this one. They are 17-inch alloys, and I think we also have, looks like mud guards on here, which I'm not particularly a fan of the mud guards on this car. I've never been a fan of mud guards. But we'll see how well they work over winter. It's a winter in the countryside is always interesting, so I'll see if they actually do their job as such and keep the car relatively clean. So as I mentioned, this is the colour is white. It's quite a nice white actually. It's more of a creamy white rather than sort of an Arctic white. It was parked up next to a Ford the other day, and that was a white one. You can really see how much actually creaminess this has to it. As I mentioned, you've got the lovely xenon headlights. You've also got the sports bumper at the front. The other model is an SE, which doesn't have a completely different bumper actually. It has sort of instead of a long, there's a daylight running light, you have a circular one instead, and it sort of sits in the middle of nowhere and floats around. So it's a completely different design here with the xenons as well. I was talking about bumpers. You also get this, which I presume is a headlight washer for the xenons. Moving on to the front, and for some reason somebody has decided to fit this, which is actually quite rickety, to be honest. I might look at changing that. I'd probably just not actually having it in, just having the badge that's underneath in. I really don't like it. I don't know why people insist on doing that, to be honest, when you've already got a big Mercedes badge there. Why do you need another one? I know with the Mercedes you like to show off a little bit. As part of having a Mercedes, you like to show off you have got this 3-pointed star. Why you need two of them, I don't know. This one also a tiny bit loose here, so I might look at replacing that while I'm at it as well. So coming round to the side of the car, as you can see, it's pretty much the same as the other side. I've already customised it a little bit. As you can see, I've got my club sticker in there. So as you can see, it looks fairly attractive from the outside. We're going to have a look on the inside now and just show you around a few of the controls and dials and various things that are in there. So as you can see, we've got full black leather interior. What I quite like as well on this particular one is that you have all this nice white stitching which sort of goes to the outside. The only thing I would say, if I was Mercedes, giving a constructive criticism on this, is I'd like to have seen that white stitching continued actually into the seats. It would be nice. On the SLK, I've got wedge stitching in my black leather seats, and it wedge actually continues all the way from the seats onto the steering wheel and also onto the door card as well. And it's just a nice little touch really, that it all sort of fits together and all sort of blends in together. So as you can see, just got door locks, we've got mirror controls at the top here, you've also got windows control there. I won't go too much into that, it's fairly self-explanatory. Moving on here, I will explain a bit about the gearbox. Now the gearbox is a 7-speed auto, but it is this is your lever here, which it takes a bit of used to actually. Coming from the SLK and coming from the Land Rover, which is very traditional gear levers which are always in here. Now as you can see, I've already opened this up, that's where the gearbox should sit and where the gear lever should be. Now in this particular B Class they do offer that as well. Now I don't know whether the automatic is an upgrade, I would imagine so, but it does come standard with a manual gearbox which is 6-speed. Now obviously that sits here, as you can see it makes a nice little cubby hole really, and that's a very useful little cubby hole for my sunglasses. There's nothing much in here, as you can see. There's some bits and pieces that I keep in there. Obviously you've got your air conditioning, stereo control, and you've also got your screen for all your information here. This one also has the Becker map pilot as well, which is interesting. It's not quite as good as the command that's in my SLK, but again it's better than anything. Coming around here, as you can see, you've got all your indicators and all your windscreen wiper stuff here, and rear windscreen wiper as well. You've got your paddle shift buttons, which you probably can't quite see. There's one there. There's one there as well, and then you've just got general control for the information computer here. Quite nice dials again, very traditional sort of Mercedes dials, and then you've got a couple of screens in the middle. So that pretty much covers the front of the B Class. I'll just do a little pan around and show you the interior and then the overall interior. Obviously this one has black interior, but it's quite nice that it's got a beige headlining. And we'll go around to the back now, just to give you an idea what the back seats are like. As you can see, nothing much really to explain here. It's 3 seats, obviously you've got 3 seat belts in there as well, so it seats 5 people. Very boring. Yes, let's move on. And then we will go round to the boot. Now this is actually quite a sizable boot actually. I'm really impressed with the size of it. Now to get, if by magic look who's arrived, to get in the back here, you've been for a ride, haven't you buddy? And to get into the back, it's quite easy for them actually. It's quite a nice low jumping up height, so they can jump in if they wanted to. All I've done is put a sort of fleece that covers the back here, so I won't get all scratched up. I'm trying to keep that relatively nice. And I put their carry crate in. The only thing I do have to point out here is I have to take out the little divider here, but I don't have to take down the back seats or anything. So I'm really impressed with the actual boot size of this. I didn't expect it to swallow up the boys' sort of travel crate, but it does, and it's actually very nice. No, we're not going out. We're not going out today, Mr. Buddy. No, sorry. You got excited then for a moment, didn't you? No, not going out at the moment. So that is the boot all sorted. The only other place I will show you for a quick little walk around is under the bonnet. Now I've got to try and find the release, which is somewhere. Here we go. Fairly standard for a bonnet. I've got to try and find out. This is another way I don't like this blooming badge thing. The actual lever for the bonnet is white underneath here, and I've got to remember where it is actually. You can't get in to get the blooming boot lever. I think it's that one there. There we go. So that actually is in the way. Fantastic. So here we have a 1.8 litre diesel engine. Now some of the later B180 CDIs are fitted with a 1.5 engine, which I believe is one of the Renault engine, Renault Dacia Nissan engines that Mercedes are fitting some of their more modern cars now. This particular one has, I think, just over 100 horsepower. It's £30 to tax, so it's nice and economical. 0 to 6 times about 10.5 seconds, maybe just over. So it's not super quick, but it's also not super slow either. Nothing much else to show you really. I suppose we'll talk about some of the boring stuff as we get moving in the car. So that is pretty much the outside and the inside of the B Class. Very nice car, very nice sort of spec as well. And we'll go for a little bit of a drive soon. I'll explain how the B Class drives. That's the most important part really. As you can see, we're out on the open road in the B Class, and it's actually a very nice car to drive. I will start off and say it's no SLK. It's not as fun as the SLK, it's not as fast as the SLK, but it is more comfortable than the SLK. It does better fuel economy than the SLK. So it really swings and roundabouts, but it does highlight how very different the two cars are. This car is fantastic for daily driving. It's very smooth, the suspension's definitely softer, but then it doesn't drive as nice. You can't go as quickly around corners. It doesn't give you the same sort of satisfaction as okay. So the first point I'm going to make is I can't really compare these two cars. I'm just going to put the air conditioning on a little bit. And that's because they're aimed at very different markets. They're very different cars. So let's, anyway, forget that. That's my first point I'm going to make. I'm not going to go comparing the two cars because there isn't any point. Now the B Class is a very nicely put together car. It feels very good quality. There is this thing about whether it is actually a Mercedes because it's a cheaper model. And to me it still feels very, very solid and very well put together. Now obviously this car is 9 years old. It has only done 15,500 miles now. Whether it would be the same case for the cars in 150,000 miles, I'm not too sure. But anyway, this car, but this particular example, does feel very good. It feels very solid put together. Now we'll come and talk about the engine. Now it is a 1.8 diesel engine, I've already mentioned, 4-cylinder. I don't believe it's turbocharged, but it's enough. It's enough to get you going down the road. It's not particularly that quick. I think 0 to 60 about 10.5 seconds, around that anyway. It's never anything particular, never going to set the road on fire, but it is very good. It is what you want, I don't really drive around feeling that I need any more power. Obviously the SLK is again completely different because that is more powerful, but I don't feel like I need any more power. Now I mentioned about the power. Obviously we have some quite steep hills, as you probably can't see, so I'm just going to put my foot down. There you go. Once it kicks down, it does go, I have to admit. To give this car credit, it really does pull quite nicely. So if you're worried about power, this one being the smallest engine model that you can get, well, diesel engine model anyway, I wouldn't worry about the power. I say you do get quite good fuel economy if you're sensible with the accelerator as well. So we'll move on to fuel economy. In this car I have got an average, after doing my 600 miles, an average of 54.3. Now bearing in mind I have done motorway driving in this car. I have also done sort of tatting around town as well. I've also sat in a few queues, which obviously ruins your fuel economy. So obviously that's a quite well-rounded figure, that one, 54.3 miles per gallon average. I've done a bit of everything. I did drive up from Devon. On the way back I actually got 60.1 mpg, so you can imagine actually I'm doing probably 65, maybe in towards 70, which is fantastic. That's what I bought this car for. Again, £30 to tax, relatively low to insure, and also good fuel economy. So what's the B Class like to drive? How does it handle? Well, again, it's alright for a car like this. You have to remember it isn't a sort of MPV. It's not going to be the best handling car in the world, but then again it doesn't absolutely wallow around every corner. It doesn't feel like a boat. The steering is quite nice. It's no sports car, it's no SLK, but it does feel quite nice. So it's fine, it does me just fine, and that's the whole thing about this car, is to get me around in relative luxury and actually get the job done. So how does the B Class feel to drive? Well, as I've said, it's no ball of fire. but it is a very nice car to drive. I feel very relaxed driving this car. There's enough power to get you down the road, but nothing to get you carried away, and you certainly have to push it a little bit hard to lose your licence, I would say. But it does everything fine. It has stuff like cruise control, fantastic. It has sat nav, fantastic. You know, everything I want here is here in a very neat and very convenient package. So that's my overview of the B Class. I do really like this car, and it's, as I say, it's one of them cars people seem to have a bit of an about when it comes to being a Mercedes. I still believe this is a Mercedes. It still feels like a Mercedes. There's the old what was it? The old slogan Mercedes used to have, which is every inch a Mercedes-Benz, and I do genuinely believe this is every inch a Mercedes-Benz still feels like a Mercedes-Benz. That quality feeling that you don't always get with other cars. I've mentioned before, I think in my Q&A session last week, I used to have a KA. Fantastic, that was a good car for getting to A to B, but that's all it sort of did. I have to admit, it never felt a nice place to sit. The fabric seats felt very cheap. This has full leather. Again, you had enough power to get you down the road, not enough to get you too excited about. It also had like things like the plastics were a bit cheaper. Again, they felt horrible and didn't look that nice, to be completely honest. So yeah, again, it was what it was. It is a cheap basic car for getting around. You don't get that with this car. This is like the opposite. It is feel a very nice place to be, and a very nice place to sit around. So would I recommend the B Class? Yes, of course I would. It is a great little car to drive around. It will do me absolutely fine. I'm hoping to keep this car a number of years and do lots of miles in it. Obviously my SLK is going to be sat at the side a little bit more, doing slightly less mileage, which isn't really possible because it hasn't even done 1,000 miles this year. So I'm going to hopefully bring that back out. There might not be much SLK content coming up now over the winter. I do need to go back up to my parents and actually drive the SLK now. It's been sat in the garage for about a month. My parents are very kind and they've been turning over the engine for me, so the battery doesn't go flat and it still gets started. But it does need to be driven. I'm a firm believer cars need to be driven. So that brings us to the end of this little sort of quick show around and quick little drive around in the B Class. I hope you've enjoyed it. Again, if you like the video, make sure you put a like. If you have any questions about the B Class or want to know anything more about it, please do put in the comments. As always, I will try and do my best to answer your questions. Also, make sure that you hit that subscribe button and that bell icon to make sure you keep up to date with all the latest releases. So it's goodbye from me, goodbye from the B Class, and I will see you next time. Goodbye.